Okay, guys, I'm back for the next part here. It's part 4 of Fix the Talker series. What we're going to do now is we're going to get the voice speed correct. As you may recall from the last one, he was a little fast. A note on voice speeds. I found that everybody's ear is a little different. I mean, I've had some that sounded perfectly okay to me, but I had the customer say to me, it's like, oh, that's too fast or that's too slow. So what I always do is I send out a sound bite of this, of the sound, how he sounds to the people that I'm fixing for. Oops. But anyhow, whatever sounds right to you. Me personally, I'd rather have one that's a touch too fast and a touch too slow. So I'm a little biased on that side of it. Some people like him to sound like he's a deep bass voice, but then he sounds like I've got a tough assignment for you, as compared to I've got a tough assignment for you. Okay, whatever. Anyway, let's get going here, and we will start out with the simplest things to do to make him talk right, and then we'll move on to some of the pad trimming and things like that, in case it doesn't all work out great for the first time. All right, let's switch around here. Away we go. All right, guys, we got our box. We have our test chest with where's our test speaker? There's our test speaker. Put that back in there. Okay. All right. One thing else, wait, no, that can wait till later. All right. So as you recall, he sounded a little quick. So what we're going to do first, I mentioned this in the last video, is we're going to clean the inside of this again very thoroughly with some alcohol. And dry it out and then see how he sounds. Also inspect the inside of the flywheel housing. And okay, there we go. See if you got any nicks, dings, scratches like that inside of there. I can see some marks in there. But when I run my finger over it, it feels pretty darn smooth in there. Another thing to consider is that the boxes wear over time. For example, this flywheel housing can get worn slightly larger than it was intended to be, and you'll wind up maybe having to put bigger pads on or things like that. I've even gone so far, if I had a talker that talks too fast, is to take some sandpaper and just rough it up in a couple places to try to slow it down. That works sometimes too. And it's a matter of fit and fiddle until you figure out until you find something that works. You might remember you're talking about a 50-year-old toy record player. Okay. I've cleaned out the inside of the housing, as I said, and I don't see any gunk or anything on my pads from the testing. Oops. Now you can put the pads on like this. As you can see, the way I cut the round pad, I put it under the long way. You can also put them on there the opposite way. I should probably demonstrate that too. And we'll do a quick like that. Okay, like the pads are round. Okay, so you cut them in half. So you can either put them the long way like that, or you can spin them around the other way and cut off the ends like I showed in the video before last in part 2. And that allows you obviously to adjust the size of the pads in various ways to make things work. However, I've cleaned out the housing, and I also trimmed a little bit off of the leading edge of the pads, as you can see. So hopefully that will make it talk right. The other thing that needs to be remembered here when trimming and playing with the pad sizes is that what makes this work is the centrifugal force of these weights pushing against the pads against the flywheel housing. If you were to, for example, tape these down so that they couldn't move and it would just spin, he'd talk really, really fast, sound like a chipmunk. In fact, I've had a few where somehow these parts got dinged and the pad was unable, or the weight was unable to swing out and come off of there. And the further out these weights can swing, the slower he's going to talk. And also, the bigger the pad, the more friction, the slower he's going to talk. So it's like a balance game, If you're into cars, it's kind of like this. You're balancing the size of your carburetor against your intake valves and your exhaust valves and your camshaft lift and all that kind of stuff. kind of the same kind of thing. You got a couple of different factors to think about, and they all got to be in balance for it to work right. Okay. All right. That being said, oops, a little bit of crud on here. We'll clean off. Okay. We're going to stick this in here after I've cleaned it out and trimmed them pads just a little bit. Put the cover back on, and we're going to stick it in there and see what happens. And boy, that could have been taken the wrong way, couldn't it? All right, let's see what we get for voice speed. Whoops, let's get on the other side of the camera cord. Kind of quiet and a little bit too fast yet. Let's try that one more time. Okay. All right. Since he sounds so quiet with a new needle, I want to tell you something else. Speakers make a difference. Sometimes you put a different speaker in there and it sounds great. And then you put, and some speakers don't sound very good at all. So, take this Cotswold speaker here. This is a Cotswold replacement. It's basically the same thing. The bodies at Cotswold Collectibles. Thanks, Cotswold, for providing all these spare parts for us. See if we can't get them a little louder before we mess with the speed some more. Yeah. There we go. That sounds better. Now, come on, I know you say other stuff. I know for a fact you say other stuff. Come on. Okay, that's a symptom of the spring may be coming off of the tone arm, or too much pressure against the speaker will prevent the tone arm from moving back and forth effectively. All right, let's try a different speaker. There we go. The loudness and the contact point on here, the thickness of this disc makes a difference as well. And obviously, as it wears against there, as the kid pulls the thing 10,000 times over the lifetime of the toy, and this is moving against there, this can wear down to the point too where it doesn't make very good contact. Now that sounded pretty good to my ears, but it's still a little fast. So, okay, slightly fast. Since we got some pretty fat pads in there already, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the trick that I talked about a little bit earlier. I'm just going to go ahead and take a piece of sandpaper. This is, I forget what it is. Let's take a look. Let's see. Another piece here. This is like 100 grit emery paper. So, what you do, if you're going to use this trick, and don't worry about using it too. You can easily smooth it back out. I'm just going to take it and put it inside the flywheel housing. And just go boop, and make a rough spot so that there's a little more friction inside of there. And we'll try it again. Yeah, still a little quick. Oops. Whoopsie. Other than that, he sounds pretty good. Okay. Since this particular one is going into my collection, and since he doesn't sound too fast for me, if I can't slow him down with making another rough spot, I'll probably just let it go. For the record, if this was a customer's, I would put a little more effort and playing around into trying to slow it down just a touch yet. Alright, let's see how he sounds now. Okay. Okay. Still a touch fast, but for me, I think I'm going to let that go and just go with it as it is. And it's not like I can't take it apart again and mess with it some more if I really am displeased with it. Okay. So, once you have the voice speed where you want it, then you need to glue the cover down, obviously, to keep the flywheel in place. And we're going to put a back pad on here. And I think that's pretty much about it. So, take your trusty super glue and just a tiny little dab on each spot where the tabs on the cover go. Obviously, be very careful not to get it into the flywheel housing or anything like that. And there you have it. Let that dry. You will find that on a lot of the earlier boxes, only 2 of the tabs are glued. The ones with the, like this one here with the little tabs on it, and then these other ones are not. I prefer to use a smaller dab of glue on each one and catch all 4. However, that's a personal preference again. However you guys want to do that, it's totally up to you. I think I'm going to use the rest of this video to talk about some other common things which you may run across. And then at the last video, I think I said this before, but I can't remember, so I'm going to reiterate it, are going to be some of the more problematic things that you may encounter that can be fixed. So, the last piece to do here is we're going to put a back pad on him. And just foam pads cut to approximately the size. I found that, if it's not exactly square and all that, it doesn't matter. As long as it's thick enough, because the function of this pad is to hold the mechanism against the speaker in the chest. So again, we go with a little super glue on here. And while you're doing this, check the back plate. Some of them only have 1 tab on one side to hold them on and 2 on the other. Some have 4, and there's a couple of different styles, but they all work the same. If I have one like this, where it's got the 1 tab and it's loose there, I always put just a little extra dab of glue. Come on, right there. keep that from flexing around too much. Take your pad, stick it on there, hold it on there. When the glue dries in a minute there, I will just trim that extra edge off of it. And I make these pads out of this packing foam. I get this at work. I use this for like the insides of helmets. You know, when you put them on pinhead Joes, they need a little extra something in there so it sits up on his head right. This kind of stuff is really handy to have around for all kinds of Joe repairs. Anyway, look at that. I love super glue. It dries so nice and fast. And then just see, it's got a little bit taller or a little bit wider than it needs to be. We'll just trim that right off. And we'll stick it back in the chest. And then take the back piece and put it on there. This is my test chest, so I'm not going to get too nuts with it. When I put them in the chest, it's going to be... Anyways, and you'll find also that having the sound be inside the chest coming out through only the speaker holes makes a difference too. So let's see what it says, or sounds. Hey, sweet. That sounds pretty good to me. Yeehaw. I'm good with that. Okay. I'm going to give you a quickie demonstration about how I go ahead and finish off with the dog tag. It's pretty simple. Where's my screwdriver? Basically, I just stick the screws into the chest, crank them down as it would be as when fully assembled and ready to put back together. Come on, get in that slot, you. There we go. Okay, what I do is this. Take my magic marker, pull the string all the way out. As you let the string go back in, follow it slowly. When it gets to the end, and I make a mark on it. It's a little mark with the magic marker so you know where you're at. As I said, this is not the chest I'm going to put it in permanently, so I'm not going to tie the dog tag chain on, but I will show you how I'm doing it. Take one of these little clamps. These are very handy as well for all kinds of things. I use them a lot for muscle body work. Pull your string out. Find your little blue mark that you made. Where'd you go? There it is. Clamp that on there to hold it. And then just simply take your bead chain and tie it off right here on, at the blue mark. So that way, when it gets to the end of the phrase and it stops, then you have your chain tied off right there, right where it's right where it should be. I buy the bead chains. I'm going to try something new with these, but they got to be cut every time, but except for a regular Joe's dog tag. But they got to cut them make them the right length for the talkers. But these are cheap, and I get them at Hobby Lobby in the jewelry section. Also, I'm going to be trying this. This is a whole roll of the stuff I bought of the same size. So I'm thinking this is a little more cost efficient, and it comes with a bunch of the little connectors. So anyway, that's where you can get your chains at. And once you do that, and then you tie it off, I put a drop of super glue on the knot like I showed on the other ones, or showed for the other things on the string, when I tied on the stop for going through the spool and all that. And that's pretty much about it for that. One last thing I'm going to show you before I close this video out is, you will note, now I got to open this up again. But that's okay. That's what an instructional video is all about. Not like you guys didn't know how to use a screwdriver anyway, right? Okay. You may recall that the flywheel in here, dang it, I glued it already. I know I got another one somewhere though. You may recall that the flywheel in there was the old style like this, where it has metal pins on the weights. So it's not going to go anywhere and it's not likely to break off. Okay. When you're getting the flywheel ready to rock and roll, I got to find one that ain't totally busted up. There we go. But most of the later ones have weights like this. And they tend to get loose as these plastic pins, where the pins will break off on a regular basis too on these kind. But there's a fix for that. I'll show you that too in the final video. But anyway, with these, what you got to do, and this is how I do it, you need to make sure that these are not all rocking and rolling in there like that. So what I do is I take a pair of pliers like this, and I grab hold of it in the notch, the upper one, in the notch where this goes, the pad, and hold it down tight with my finger, put the other end right there, and then gently squeeze it to close it up. You don't want it to be rocking and rolling in there. You want it to be. And then the other thing you can do is to squeeze these down, a little bit, so that it doesn't want to wobble this way very much. Any extensive wobbling of these weights will cause warbling and and the speeding up and slowing down of the voice as he talks. Well, that's another thing to keep in mind, and unfortunately most of them have these kind of weights. They're only also made out of pot metal, cold cast metal, so if you squeeze these too hard, they will break. Be more on that when I go to the more complicated and intensive repairs. Okay. Let's see. I can't think of anything else right off the top of my head that I should tell you guys about this. As always, if you have questions, feel free to comment and ask those questions. I've been doing this a while. I got a pretty good handle on it, and I'm more than happy to spread the knowledge. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. And I'm on a roll today, so I'm going to do one more video before I call it a day on this one. Next video is going to be a review of some stickers. Some very nice stickers that I received from another gentleman who is into the repair and replacement scenario, and he does stickers, and he's good. And we'll show you those in the next video, which I'm going to do right now as soon as I have a smoke. See you guys later. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. But keep watching. Thanks for the support. And in the comments, guys, I see all kinds of positive things. And I'm really happy to see that y'all like me doing this, because I have such a blast with it. So anyways, we will catch you again very, very soon. Have a great day.